Today on the Retro Zoo Super Show, we are going to be talking about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Heroes of the Lance, or as I like to call it, Heroes of the Really Boring Game.
Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the Internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
Welcome, you have joined us for the Retro Zoo Super Show. I am one of your hosts, Kai. I am joined, as always, and by always I mean sometimes, Steven.
Hello.
And that's going to be enough for you. We'll continue. How you been?
Been good, man. I've been missing the show. I know I've been absent, and I feel it. You know, there's like an itch in the back of my mind every time I miss a recording. And,
well, you almost missed it today because I'm trying to start the show and you're talking to people on Discord.
Well, there happened to be really interesting people in Discord, and I had a lot to say. So,
well, what's really sad is like, so we've mentioned this before, but I guess we can go into more detail. We are going to start playing the Star Wars tabletop RPG Edge of the Empire, and we are playing on the Discord server. Or we haven't started playing, but we've been creating characters on the Discord server and putting up links and resources and stuff like that. And then at the same time, 2 weeks ago, the Dice and Dreary podcast launched, which we talked about 2 weeks ago on this program, and that is an actual play. Dungeons and if you weren't there, an actual play Dungeons and Dragons podcast that I'm one of the player characters on, and that has been like one of the centers of discussion on our Discord server, and so we've been like very heavily talking about Star Wars RPG and Dungeons and Dragons, and not any of the topics that the server was created for, but it's still been a lot of fun.
Well, that's how ideas happen, right? Like, you always start with this one idea, and then it morphs into these other ideas you didn't anticipate. And so,
yeah. So come join us on Discord to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and not video games. I mean, we're kind of asking for it because this whole series has been about like tabletop RPGs and in particular Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, so it is related, and you know what I mean. Just a shout out to the Dice and Jury Dungeons and Dragons real play thing. It's a lot of fun. I haven't listened to the new episodes yet, but I listened to the first one.
Episodes? There's only been 3.
Well, there's 2. I've listened to 1.
Oh, okay.
So 2 episodes is plural. For me, because actually when the first one released, like I had so much fun listening to it that I tried to get the second. I thought for some reason there would be a second episode available. But I thought you had mentioned something about recording more than one at once. And I couldn't find one, and I was actually really disappointed. And then a bunch of stuff happened in my life, and I hadn't haven't really had a chance to do much. But I'm looking forward to listening to the next two ones. The first one it's got a big hook in it that'll keep you going.
Oh man, the end of I didn't know he was going to cut, because we at least in the first episodes, what we were doing was like recording 2 episodes at once, and then whittling them down, because I mean, I guess the recording time on each one is an hour 45-ish. We run for a bit, 3.5 hours, and he cuts them down, and where he cut episode 1 is so good.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun. I love the sound effects. I mean,
oh yeah, and that's all Jeff is the sound effects. Jeff is doing an amazing job with that.
No, you and Rave and Jeff, man, you guys have some chemistry, and it's a joy to listen to. So, I'm honestly, we had talked about doing the Star Wars Edge of the Empire game before I actually had listened to the Dyson Jury thing, and man, after listening to it, and I know it's going to be totally different, so I'm not trying to like make a comparison already, but it got me excited about it. I was like, man, that's so much fun, and it sounds so good, and it's just chemistry and a real play situation, or it's everything. And so I haven't done I think actually you, Kai, have kind of introduced me into the whole world of listening to. I mean, I knew it existed, and I'd heard other people talking about it, listening to. Actually, I originally used to be a subscriber or follow this this Lovecraft podcast.
Oh yeah.
And so, I guess I had kind of heard some Lovecraft, but the people I was watching, and I'm not going to say the name of which show it is, because I don't have a lot of good things to say about it. I guess it was cool.
Wow.
I liked the idea of it, but then I listened in and like watched some of their playing of it, and I didn't like some of the characters. I mean, I liked the GM. He was a cool guy. He was the guy that had the podcast or the Lovecraft show, but I don't know. I think it was. Well, I don't want to say too much, but anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him away.
You're like narrowing it down already.
Basically, it's if you take off this letter from this word, it'll say his name. But no, I didn't like it. I kind of think it turned me off, actually, because some of the characters were really obnoxious, and so anyway, I didn't follow it for a long. I just kind of lost interest in anything, listening to Dungeons and Dragons, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Until you started talking about it, and then bam, you told me about the Silhouette Zero. I've been listening to some of that, and now your own. You're part of a Real Play podcast, which it's just so much fun. So I'm really excited about actually getting caught up with that, and actually even getting into something like that on with us. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's like we are gonna be doing it through our Discord server, and so people are can listen in. I'm not really looking to turn this into a podcast, but we are gonna record it, and I guess if it's good enough, we might put it on Patreon or something like that, so people can check it out. But we are gonna have it on Discord. We're gonna have the schedule posted so that people can check it out and follow along. But yeah, like I know what you mean. Like I started I listened to a few actual play podcasts, but what really got me started was when we started talking about Dyson Jury.
Yeah.
And we've been playing with this idea for months now, and actually we've been recording for months, and in a couple of months before that we were playing with the idea and trying to figure out if we were going to do it on Twitch or what, and so I started listening to them just to hear whatever other people are doing, to get some ideas, and just really it's one of the things that's fueled the that's one of the reasons we're doing this series, is because I've kind of dove in to Dungeons and Dragons lately, and it's had such an influence on retro gaming and gaming in general, of course, that I figure it's like, hey, we should do a series on this, because it's just been so incredibly influential.
Yeah. No, it's super cool. So,
So we've created several characters. We're still creating some of the characters for some of the players, but I mentioned this to you, but I played. It was kind of like a Silhouette Zero style game with Anla.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And so she was she was playing the player character, the captain of the ship, and I was kind of playing all of the NPCs that kind of just moved at her direction.
The Silhouette Zero style kind of thing?
Exactly, yes. And I totally ripped off Silhouette Zero's astromech sound, which is not whistling at all, but kind of more expressive, just stuff like that. And I totally ripped that off, and ripped off the ideas that I was talking to Chrising about, and it's like one thing he said in our podcast was that, of his 3 voices, he intentionally made one high, one medium, and one low.
Yeah.
And so I did the exact same thing, and it works. It's so good. I'm so impressed. So, Chris, if you're listening, thank you very much. You have helped my relationship with my fiance grow.
Dude, you should you should do like a Scooby-Doo astromech kind of like
Bro. That'd be awesome if, like, every time we're in danger, just the astromech goes Rut-row.
Yeah. That would be super awesome.
Oh man. Yeah, you could totally model like the whole ship's crew after the characters in Scooby-Doo, and have Scoob be the astromech. It'd be great. Shaggy would be on Spice. That would be awesome.
I never looked up what the. Well, we can do this later. I never looked up what the effects of Spice were. I'm still. I've been thinking about it a lot though.
Yeah. Yeah. Our game is going to be a bit darker. Y'all got dark with it. We don't need to go into details because this is a kid's show.
Yeah.
But you're going to be able to hear it. All right. So we might as well go through this because first of all, this is episode 75.
Oh.
So.
Do we have some fanfare? Some like.
I don't know. Yeah, that's probably. I don't even have. I don't even have the synth on. Yeah. So kind of a milestone. Of course, our numbers mean absolutely nothing because we've done several episodes that were not numbered. And
you always bring that up.
Well, I think we're actually like at 80. But I mean, because there's been several.
I think you should just count them and then just add them in.
So we skip from episode 75, and next week's going to be episode 81, and just freak people out.
Well, no, you just make this. Your intro into the whole the episode at the very beginning. You just tell all the fans, like, guess what? I'm officially counting the 5 episodes I never counted. Now we're at 80.
Well, then I'm gonna have to count the episodes that I actually didn't count, and that's gonna take effort. And
okay, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5. I don't know which, but in any case, it's just kind of funny. We like celebrate these milestones that aren't actually milestones. It's just the weird system I chose to count our episodes. That is meaningless and is not even accurate, but it's episode 75. That is a milestone, and so huzzah! Congratulations!
Congratulations, everybody! round of applause to us. Well, that is cool, man, and it's kind of weird actually because when you started talking about this, all those years ago,
it's been a year and a half.
I didn't know if it would. I didn't know, man. I just didn't know it would last so long, and I'm very glad. I mean, even though I haven't been very consistent, you have, and it's like, I don't know, man. I'm glad to come back to it every time, and I miss it. I feel like I'm always on these voyages, these journeys, these really deep spiritual. I'm trying to like climb to the top of a mountain, kind of thing, but you're still there. You're still doing the show, and then it's like when I come down and I realize that everything. is meaningless, then I still have the podcast to come.
Oh,
to.
well, that's nice.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not that dark.
Yeah. Well, the way to put a damper on that. So, goodness. So, for just to kind of quickly, if we're very happy to continue doing this show. We have a lot of fun with it, but if you are enjoying the show, please consider supporting us in one way or another. You can jump on our Patreon page. This year, we are going through the Mega Man 3 soundtrack and recording our own versions of these songs. And once a month, that we are dropping a new track from that soundtrack, and that's actually for all of our Patreons from the $1 level up. And normally the music goes to the $3 level and up, but in this case, we decided to open that one up for all because we're really happy with the way this is all coming out. So the first song was released last month. We are nearing the second one. We also put out the theme song to Dice and Dreary on there, which is I was really happy with the way that came out. But if you cannot support us financially, that is something I completely understand and have no problem with. There are other ways you can support us. Share us with friends. You have some friends with some similar interests. Please let them know about us. Call them out by name on Facebook, tag them, and make them suffer. And getting that notification, possibly at work, in the middle of a meeting, and they wonder what happened? Who is that? Who is sending that to me? And make them suffer. You can also leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast catcher, and that helps us out. It actually helps us out a lot. I went in and noticed that we have several ratings, just a few reviews, but several ratings, and that's really cool. It helps us to know, if we're on the right track or not. And, almost half of the people who gave us a review gave us a positive one. And so I think that's great. I'm joking. They're almost all positive.
I was going to say, I was like, dude, that's like an F.
Right. Yeah. Oh goodness. So yeah, I mean, besides playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I was mostly getting Anla to play so I could distract her from wedding plans. But that is coming up. That is coming up. That's coming up in about 25 episodes. I can't remember the exact date right now, but I know that it's about 25 episodes.
So that's like so it's like almost 25 episodes.
Yeah, I know.
So,
that's crazy, right?
That is crazy. It's kind of sad, I mean,
it's not sad.
I mean, we're not going to be bachelors anymore together. I mean, it's just going to be me and Drum.
I kind of been dating Anla for a while.
I know. But I just, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad you chose me as the best man, though, right? Right.
Well, we had to put something on the invitations, and you were up on the mountain.
I was getting enlightened because I knew that you were probably going to ask me, and I needed to be enlightened by the time I came back down, so that
I'm really not sure you're going to be here in 25 episodes. I mean, come on, that's fair, right?
Okay, it's fair if you think that I don't think that it's important to be there in 25 episodes. Which isn't fair of you to think about me.
No, I'm joking. Of course you're the best man, and we can just cross Drum off the invitation and handwrite your name in. There's not that many.
Wait, you were going to put Drum as the best man?
Well, it was just a safety thing. It was a miscommunication. They asked me who the best man was, and I kind of was like, I don't know. I just know. It could be Steven. It's probably going to be Steven. I don't know. It might be Drum. Drum. If Steven's not there, it might be Drum.
I know.
I'm hoping Steven, and they just wrote They just wrote Drum. It wasn't my fault.
I know Alma's family doesn't like me. Okay, I know. You know, it's no secret. They like Drum more than me. He's a robot. No, I don't know.
I am a very nice robot.
You are a great robot, Drum.
Wait, since when did you get all cuddly with Drum?
Well, you've been gone. I've had to oil him. He's very funny. I didn't know he was that funny.
I don't know.
I
don't
can
know what to
tell
say.
a knock-knock joke.
Drum, not now.
What, you've been having him tell you jokes?
Well, he
That's
just
what
kind
we
of
did
does
together.
it.
We used to do jokes together.
It just happened. It wasn't intentional. Just it kind of
So,
just. I was hanging out with Drum, and it just happened. Just happened.
So I go to the mountain
It
for a
wasn't
couple
my fault.
weeks. I go to the mountain for a couple weeks, and you plan a wedding without me. You become best
Why
friends
would
with
I
Drum.
Why would I plan a wedding
start-
with you?
We're best friends.
Okay, it's not even me planning the wedding. Really, it's Anla.
Wait, so she's in charge. Is that how it is?
Yes. Have you ever gotten married?
Apparently, I haven't. For good reason, apparently.
I don't even know what that means.
It means I'm jaded, and I'm going to go back up to the mountain as soon as this episode is over.
Oh gosh. Well, we're talking about a good game next week. Don't just come down for the bad game.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how I feel.
Okay. Well, all right. So we might as well jump into the topic.
The topic.
So
Dum 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 dum. The topic. Dum 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 dum. Sorry, that's The Simpsons.
yeah.
All right, let's do the
all
topic.
right. So last week we talked about how this company SSI, Strategic Simulations Inc., got the rights to make Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, and they just kind of ran with it. And the first Dungeons and Dragons game, a video game to be put out, was Pool of Radius, and that was the amazing game that we talked about last week. Then later that same year, they did another Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game called Heroes of the Lands, and that is not as good of a game. But we are going to talk about it because I am a massive Dragonlance fan, and this is going to be our excuse. This is like the one chance I get to actually jump in and just rant about Dragonlance. All right, so we need to jump back a little bit to 1984 when an adventure came out for AD&D called Dragons of Despair, and it is the first part in a long series of interconnected adventures that is going to take the player through this story of Dragonlance. And at the same time, about the same time, the first novel based on the game came out, The Dragons of Autumn Twilight. So Tracy Hickman wrote the first module, the first Dragonlance adventure, and he and Margaret Weiss co-authored the novel.
Does she have any relation to Rachel Weisz, the actress? Sorry, go ahead.
Wikipedia knows nothing about this.
Okay. Oh, you looked it up. Thank you for catering to me. Go ahead.
Oh, so this the adventure itself was kind of revolutionary because it was the first one, as I understand it, to have a single story told over many adventure modules. And there were like 3 sections of it with 4 modules in each section, and those 3 sections became the 3 novels that were released. And the novels themselves have truly become fantasy classics. that are just really amazing adventures, a lot of fun to read, some great characters, and just even people like I mean, I had never even played Dungeons and Dragons when I read the novels, and it was on the recommendation of a friend that I read them, and I was just completely enthralled by them. They're so much fun. There's a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons elements to them that is distinctly Dungeons and Dragons, but that's to be expected. You know, they are coming out of this, this game, and the books were published by TSR, the publisher of Dungeons and Dragons, and Dragonlance kind of became not only a reused world setting for the game, but also a long-standing series of books that a lot of which are very good, and some of them are not as good, which happens in a series of books.
I've heard of Dragonlance.
Yeah. So Dragonlance is like, Forgotten Realms was the big one, right?
Right.
But if you go to the bookstore and you go to the Dungeons and Dragons section, you're going to see some Dragonlance there, or I should say used bookstore. I don't know if these are on the shelves of Barnes and Noble. I think at least the big titles might be like Dragons of Autumn Twilight. But they were always sitting side by side, the Dragonlance and the Forgotten Realms. And so this was actually one of a couple of things that kind of put Tracy Hickman on the map. The other one being the creation of Ravenloft, the original Curse of Strahd game, and creating that world. And so, he really had this element to him of really bringing in some deeper story and a lot of really good world building in his games. So when SSI got the rights to the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons stuff, they made a Dragonlance game, and it actually doesn't say Dragonlance on it at all. It just says Heroes of the Lance, and it has a recreation of the classic image of someone riding a dragon and holding a great lance and seemingly killing another dragon. This does not happen in the game at all. So,
you mean there's no dueling lance dragon rider knight?
No, which
that would have been cool.
It's probably going to just set us up for disappointment.
Yeah, that's like the most epic thing that might happen in the yeah.
Right, yeah. So we're going to chat about the game a little bit, and we're going to get more into Dragonlance as we return in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Phil from philsgamingemporium.com. That's your source for all your retro gaming needs and your tabletop needs. I have been so inspired by this new series. I am so pumped that I have gathered some of the greatest, the just top tier free resources from online and printed them all together and stapled them together, and now this pack of personally cultivated materials, personally cultivated resources can be yours for the low price of $59.99. Head over to philsgamingemporium.com, philsgamingemporium.com, and we will see you there. And we are back. So, 1988 comes. Heroes of the Lance is released, and it is distinctly different from Pool of Radiance. So Pool of Radiance, you're going to remember, it's like it's very faithful to the AD&D rules. You have your THAC-Co, and you can the game is doing the dice rolls for you, and the different characters and their HP and stuff like that. Heroes of the Lance is a side-scrolling action game, and it came out first of all on like all of the systems, Amiga, C64, DOS, etc., and so on. and it actually reviewed fairly well. Looking back at it today, one of the elements that just doesn't feel right anymore is that it has this very arcade type of atmosphere to it. Like like all those old games where you're like gaining points. That's an old arcade thing, right? It really doesn't actually make sense for Super Mario Brothers to count points.
Right.
But that was a holdover from the arcade days. Well, what things that kind of frustrating is that SSI knew better. Like, they had done Pools of Radiance, and they had done a proper experience system and leveling system. And in this game, you're getting points, but they call it experience. And so, like, it like hints that you're going to level up at some point, but you're not. And so you're just really kind of wandering through this cave. So this takes place. The video game takes place in the plot of the first module, in the first half of the first novel, and you are going through the ruined city of Zaxxaroth, and what you're looking for is the disc of Mishakal
disc.
Mishakal.
Sounds like a great disc.
Yeah.
You see my Mashakal disc?
Oh, and so now this takes place in the book, and it takes place in the module, and it takes place after a lot of stuff, like where you introduce characters and a plot. But the game picks up where it's like, no, you just go in this cave and you go find these discs, and you go wander through this ruined city street to street, and it's just this giant maze, and you keep facing different types of enemies. They're mostly the same type. They're mostly draconians they look like dwarves. According to the book, it might be gully dwarves. I haven't played the module. There might be a dwarven enemy in the cave, and there's some human enemies, and you go in and you have the traditional 8 characters from the novel, which is cool because these characters are amazing, except in this game. And so they kind of really fill out this party with a bunch of different types of characters, that are all like AD&D archetypes, right? So you have like one of the really famous ones is Raceland, the mage who has gone to, I forgot what it was called. It was some tower of testing or something like that. And I just read it too, goodness. And he's gained all this magical power, but he's just shattered his body, and so he's weak and spindly.
So he's got all this power, but it's like he's just like a piece of glass.
Right? Yeah. He's got 5 hit points, as is appropriate for a mage in AD&D. But his brother is this warrior, Cameron, and so he's like this super competent guy. And then you have Sturm, the paladin. You have Tanis, who actually I always thought was a ranger, and I opened up the module, and he's like supposed to be a warrior, and that confuses me because he's a bowman, and then you have the other really, really famous one is Tasselhoff, the Kinder thief. And so Kinders are like the new race that this game introduces, and they are a race of thieves.
Kinders.
And they're halflings, and they're very absent-minded, and they don't really have a concept of ownership of things. And so what that means is they just grab things and they keep them. And because it's not that they're evil, it's just they don't really recognize that belongs to someone. And so Tasselhoff the Kinder thief became one of this really famous characters because it was just a really kind of cool, inventive way of having a thief character that is kind of absent-minded and funny, and just kind of appears with stuff that he shouldn't have, but he stole somewhere along the way. and then you have the cleric character is Goldmoon, and her barbarian boyfriend Riverwind. But one of the gimmicks of the book and the game is that the old gods have left. And so, like, you know, because clerics draw their power from their god, there's no true clerics anymore. And so, kind of the gimmick of the game is of the module and of the novel is that Goldmoon has found this staff that has healing properties to it, and that is heavily suggesting that the old gods have returned. And so that's kind of the quest, is to try to figure out, you know, what's going on there.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, no, the story is great, and the story starts off, and it's really kind of this character-driven thing, where all of these characters just have this really distinct personality and this cool, you know, this cool approach and how they interact, and not all the characters like each other. Like, most of the characters in the game really dislike Raceland, the mage, because he's evil. And it just really comes out, interesting. And, like, Riverwind does not trust anybody at first. They've been driven out of their tribe because of this magic. And, you know, Tanis is half elven, and he's kind of drawn between his human and elfish sides, and he's got an elfish girlfriend and a human girlfriend, and the human girlfriend may or may not be like the head general of the bad guy, but you know, there's a lot of history and a lot of internal conflict going on in the party, and that's kind of what makes this thing great. You know, if you like explain the plot of the first module, it's not heavy, or the first half of the first book. There's not deep, but it's very cool because it's very character driven, and these characters are in the module. That you know that you can play as them, and the book is coming out about the same time as the module, and so, you know, certainly in 1984 there was a rush of players creating mages with broken bodies named Raceland. You know, it's the same kind of thing when, like, Dritz Duerden came out. It's like all of a sudden everybody wanted to be a drow ranger that dual wielded, you know, scimitars. That's just right. That's just what everybody wanted now, and it was the same kind of thing. It was like, so all of a sudden these parties started collecting mages and kinders, you know, throughout, and it's just these characters really kind of sparked everyone's imagination, and so it was very cool. Those characters are present in this video game. They don't say anything or anything. I mean, you know. But I mean, one of the things the video game has going for it is that you have these 8 characters, and you can pick between them, and a lot of them have special abilities. So Raceland does have offensive magic, and Goldmoon does have healing magic. Tasselhoff can find traps as you walk, and there are a lot of traps in the game.
Hasselhoff? Every time you say that, I'm thinking Hasselhoff. Just go on.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And so, you know, so on and so forth. So they each have these special abilities, and so because there's only one character on the screen at one time, and so what these 8 characters do functionally is provide your lives for you, right? And so, like, if Caramon falls, then he can be replaced by Flynn the Dwarf, and so on and so forth. But it's like if all your extra lives had slightly different abilities, and so that's kind of cool. That's a really neat idea. One of the problems, though, is that if Goldmoon dies, it's game over. Because when you get to the end, you cannot pass the dragon without Goldmoon. You have to have her, and that comes from the book, where and how Goldmoon defeats the dragon. It's the same way you defeat the dragon in the game. But if she died somewhere along the way, you're just kind of hosed. You know, if Tasselhoff dies along the way, you are just going to be hitting every single trap along the way. And it's a maze. And so you're wandering all over the place. And so it's very easy to kind of lose the game very early and not even realize it until a while later.
That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah. So and unfortunately, I the only version I was able to play was the NES version, and it's kind of weird because in '88, like the original version comes out and it reviews very well, and then in '91 the Nintendo version comes out and it is considered one of the worst video games made in history. It's dreadful, and I tried playing it, and it's horrible. It's not fun. It's tedious, it's annoying, it's just irritating, and it makes me want to kind of play like the DOS version or something. It's like, how are y'all like, I mean, giving this a good rating? The graphics, so I watched a playthrough, and the graphics look very cool. For '88, they look great. It is kind of fun seeing all of those characters that you know and love so well, in the game. It's just none of their personalities come through, and that's the struggle, because that's what's so cool about the books. It's not the plot. It's not actually going through Zach Sarath in the book, because that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the interesting part. It's the characters are really what drive this story. And that's the one thing, even though they had the 8 characters in their names there, they didn't have their personalities. They didn't have the interaction. It was just go get the disc of Mishkal. No, that's not even right. Mishakal. And I just watched the movie. Oh, so okay. So I'm gonna have a quick diversion, because they made Dragons of Autumn Twilight into a movie, like 10 years ago. All right. And they heavily invested in the voice cast, and they didn't heavily invest in much else. But they heavily invested in the voice cast. And they got like Kiefer Sutherland to play Raceland. And they got Lucy Lawless to play Goldmoon, and so they did fine, but it was so weird. It was like the animation was just really kind of stilted, and the action scenes were really quite bad. It felt like the Hanna-Barbera animation, like the old Dungeons and Dragons cartoon animation, where the action scenes are just so corny, where they're just kind of swinging swords around like they're idiots. But so you kind of think that you're watching this movie from the 80s, but then all of a sudden the Draconians show up, and all the Draconians are CGI, like 3D rendered. And it's the most awkward thing, and that's worked before. Well, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, but this is one that it didn't work. But like in the cartoon Lord of the Rings, right? They the cartoon version, they had some of the characters were like filmed, like humans being filmed, and then they were kind of colored over in the movie, and it was a very cool effect. And,
I've seen that.
Yeah, and so the movie's terrible. That's the part I'm gonna get in trouble for, because that movie has a cult following, and I don't get it. Yeah. It's a terrible film. But that was a very cool effect, and they had some of that in what's that movie? Joss Whedon wrote it. It was a sci-fi animated film. That's going to drive me crazy. I'm on Wikipedia. We're going to look up Joss Whedon and head over to filmography. Titan AE. So
Oh yeah,
that was a Don Bluth film, and and Bluth. Actually, I was just listening to Retro Warriors talk about Dragon's Lair, which was Don Bluth. But
I like that movie.
Oh, Titan AE. Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. But they, like the bad guys in that, they had like that 3D rendered look to them, and that kind of made them stand out, and it was very cool. It is not cool in this movie. It is so poorly done, and it's so disappointing. But the real disappointing thing about the movie is that they kept all the action scenes, but none of the character development. And so, instead of like really like Tannis like really torn between these two worlds, because he's he's a product of violence, we'll put it that way. And so his mom was elfish, but he's been rejected by that world. And so he's really torn between them. Instead, he just really comes across as like this whiny guy who has 2 attractive girlfriends. And you're like, why are you whiny, dude? You got 2 girlfriends. And, and so it's like, and like they make the weirdest, most obvious, statements about the different characters, just to kind of let you know what they are and their characters, and they don't come through at all. And that's the story. It doesn't work without those characters, because that's the reason. I mean, that's the whole reason it did work in the first place, is because of the characters in it. And that's why it's like, every time they try to translate this thing into some other medium, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, things get lost in translation. So, but I feel like it usually probably happens because somebody's trying to take their favorite part of it or whatever it was and make it their own, or like try to transcribe it, and that doesn't usually work. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, and there's been a move to try to get Dragonlance made into a movie for a while, and so it's like, okay, this is a safe bet to make money. And Kiefer Sutherland's going to be Raceland. That's going to be awesome. And he was a fine voice for Raceland, but I was actually hoping that he would do that voice he did in Dark City. Do you remember that one?
Dude, it's been a long time since I've seen Dark City.
Well, his character in Dark City was so interesting, but he just kind of had, I'm trying to do an imitation of him, but, just kind of a very slight voice, type of thing. And I was hoping he would pull that out for Raceland, but no, he was just being Kiefer Sutherland, which is fine. Kiefer Sutherland is Kiefer Sutherland, and, and whether he's Jack Bauer pulling a gun and shooting somebody, or he's Raceland pulling out a magic missile and shooting somebody, he's still shooting somebody and being awesome about it. So who cares?
Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah, he's a character.
Oh, so yeah. Long story short, I still actually would love to see like a really well done Dragonlance Chronicles film made. I would much prefer it actually to be like a Netflix series where you really had time to dig into these characters, because it's like the original book was like 450 pages long, and this is book 1 of a trilogy. These weren't short, this was a hefty work, and so it doesn't really do anybody any service to translate that book that long into an hour and a half film. You really need some time with it, and so hopefully one day they'll do it well. Yeah,
I don't know, man. Maybe they can make a TV series out of it.
Yeah, that's literally what I just said. Not a way to pay attention.
Well, I was just agreeing with you.
So Don Bluth was born in Texas.
Where in Texas?
El Paso. Hey, claim Don Bluth. He's one of the most brilliant animators of our age. Secret of Nim.
Oh, dude, are you serious?
Yeah, Secret of Nim, American Tail, Land Before Time.
Oh, man.
He did Dragon's Lair. Let me look. He did All Dogs Go to Heaven and Anastasia. which I did not see. I saw All Dogs Go to Heaven. That was okay.
Dude, All Dogs Go to Heaven was awesome.
It's been a while since I watched that one. Maybe I should rewatch it. But Secret of Nim is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, it's really cool.
He directed the original Pete's Dragon. I didn't know that. Dude, I love that movie.
I don't think I've seen that one. Pete's Dragon. I'll look it up.
The original? That was a live-action and animated combo.
Oh,
where the dragon was animated.
I've seen the new one.
Oh, how is that?
I don't know. It was all right. I haven't seen the first one, so I don't know what to I don't know how to compare them, but I thought it was fun. I guess I've been really disappointed with movies recently. I think they're missing something and I don't know if it's me. It's that age old Star Wars dilemma. Was Star Wars so great because I was a kid when I started watching it, or was it actually just so great? Like, there's this dilemma. Like, are movies when I was younger just so awesome because I was younger in general, because I feel like nowadays I'm a little bit more jaded and like hard on movies and I don't know if it's that I'm jaded or not. I don't know. Like, it might be that. It just seems like it was forced a little bit. Like, they were trying to a little bit preachy. Everything's a little bit preachy these days. It's like it can't be about just about a good story. It's got to have like some kind of teaching moment. Like, which good stories do have teaching moments, but you should never know that you're being taught. Like, you should just know that I saw a good story and it moves me to do the right thing or whatever. So I think this Pete's Dragon that I saw, it was all right. The acting, like, that's the other thing. I feel like, not the acting. If the acting is short or the screenwriting or whatever, like, it's not as good as it seems like things used to be. And that might just be me being an old fart, but
possibly, yeah.
I think so, probably. But it was all right. I mean, it was fun. The kids would like it.
I gotcha.
If you knew kids that like dragons.
Yeah, I'm kind of unlike and not to get into that, but the expected haul for Captain Marvel keeps dropping. So I was about to say, unlike everybody else, the movie I wanted to see is not Captain Marvel, but it didn't seem like everybody else is going to see Captain Marvel either. But I keep wanting to see Alita, Battle Angel. Yeah. That looks so much up my alley, especially because it's Robert Rodriguez, and I love his stuff.
Yeah, I that's in the theaters right now, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I almost saw that the other day. I was either that or the Lego Movie 2. And
I want to see that too.
I saw it. It was not the Lego Movie one.
Well, but it can't be. I mean, that's right. Yeah, it can't be.
But it was
okay. And I'm going to address all you people, like all you Hobbit film haters out there.
I'm a Hobbit film hater.
Oh God. Okay,
you just address me.
All right.
Well, actually, I don't know if I'm a hater, but I'm not a. Okay, go ahead.
It's just like it's not like the Lord of the Rings. It's like there's never been a movie like the Lord of the Rings. It can't be. It's the best film ever made. You can like a movie that's not quite as good as Lord of the Rings. Okay, so why do you dislike it? If you say because it's not like The Hobbit, you're gonna get a lecture. So go ahead.
Wait, like
the book,
the Lego Movie 2?
No, Hobbit.
Oh, the book. Oh, the book is no, dude. I guess I was thinking about the movies. I thought we were talking about the movies.
No. If you're gonna say that you don't like the movies because it's not like the book was. It's not.
Oh, actually, it's the same universe. It's the same kind of time period. It's the same. There's so many things that are the same about it. And the Lord of the Rings, the movies, which I wasn't even a super fan of. Okay, I'm just gonna say that right now. I mean, But let me tell you why. Part of it is I've owned up to it, and I'm working through this. Is that I had just read the books again before I saw the movies because I was so excited about seeing the movies, and so I think while I was watching the movies, I was comparing them to the books. And this was a long time ago. I was a little bit younger then, and so I think in my mind I was just like, oh, they missed all this stuff and blah 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 blah.
Oh, gotcha.
But so that being said, I own them and I do watch them on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah.
So I do admit that they're great.
Okay,
But
so redeem yourself real quick and tell me who the hero of Lord of the Rings is.
the hero of Lord of the Rings would have to be Sam.
All right, you are redeemed. You can stay on the program.
Yay! No, Sam is great, dude. And I mean, there's no Sam in the Hobbit movies, and I don't know, the Hobbit movies just suck, dude. I don't know.
All right, the Hobbit movies do not suck, but if you don't like the films as films, that's okay. But I'm going to address all of you who don't like the movies because, he took a children's novel and tried to darken it and expand it too much. I'm just going to address all you people real quick.
Okay, I'm sitting here waiting to be addressed.
Your problem is not with Peter Jackson. Your problem is with Tolkien. Because Tolkien did that first. You have the appendices to Lord of the Rings, where he expands the story and tells it from a different point of view and ties it in Lord of the Rings. Then he rewrote the story as The Quest for Erebor, which is much darker and much more and ties in with Lord of the Rings. And he was writing a revision of The Hobbit that would fit the tone of Lord of the Rings and kind of plug it into Lord of the Rings itself. And so he was already doing all of that. Peter Jackson just took what he was already doing it and made a movie out of it. And so your problem's not really with Jackson. Your problem's with Tolkien.
It's with Tolkien. He messed up. He should have stopped. He should have said, like, "Hey, man,
Tolkien never stopped." That's and Tolkien was a medievalist, and this is one thing about like medieval literature that's really different than the way we think of things. One of the things to establish your skill as like a poet or a storyteller, a bard was not to tell new stories, but to tell old stories that people had told 100 times before. And so people would be like, oh, he told that story really well. He was better than those other people who told the exact same story. And so that's why, like Arthurian legend, it's like 100 people telling the exact same story over and over and over again. The medievals loved that. They didn't want new stories. They wanted old stories retold. And since Tolkien is a medievalist, that's why he has so many versions of each and every story. And you can kind of, he's really approaching it from that medieval point of view. He's starting to think it's like, okay, so this is how Bilbo tells this story, but how would Gandalf tell this story? And in Lord of the Rings, it's extreme because in that case you have Frodo writing the first draft and then other people editing it and then Tolkien translating it. And he actually has segments of it where you can tell who it is talking. It's really weird and very cool, but that's on my soapbox for.
Okay.
I don't mind people not liking a movie, but dislike it for the right reasons.
Yeah. I don't even know if it was, I mean, now that you've said that, I have to say this, but, I don't even know if it was because it differed from the book as much as just like didn't have the same quality it didn't seem as tight and and maybe it was because there were some things about it that were very unfamiliar. And so, and if your audience doesn't know that, hey, he's retelling the same story just from a different, perspective, and everybody's coming in expecting, because he didn't do that with Lord of the Rings. I mean, he left stuff out, but he didn't tell. He told the Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, I'm referring to, like, he told the story as it was written, but just leaving out some parts, for the most part.
Right.
So,
that's the tough thing that I did not want to be in Jackson's shoes for this, because I think that if he had done The Hobbit first, it would have been very different. But he's making The Hobbit as a sequel to Lord of the Rings, which is weird, Right. And everybody knows it's the same studio, same author, same director, and they're related. And so he's got to make the choice. He's like, do I go with late Tolkien and rewrite it as a prelude to Lord of the Rings, or do I go with early Tolkien and have it being, a jaunty children's tale that, barely has a connection to Lord of the Rings. And I think either way, people were going to be disappointed. And so, it was a choice he made that, different people would have made differently. And, I like the line in one of the Tolkien professors podcast that, if I had made it, it would have been very different, but not necessarily better. So,
right. No, dude, it's, you can't even comprehend. I mean, we can't comprehend that kind of coordination and work and all that goes into making a film like of that length and magnitude. And so, yeah, those kind of calls are beyond my understanding. So, yeah, no, ultimately there's respect too. But, I don't know, man. Like, when it's weird. Your gut is influenced by weird things. Like if you go into something, like that's why, dude, I don't like hearing that something is really awesome before I go see it, because I'm going to be like, oh, it's going to be really awesome, and then it's never as awesome as I thought it was, and I'm always disappointed.
Well, you should play Heroes of the Lance, and you will not be disappointed. Yeah, you still might be. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm just a farty guy.
Farty guy. That's going to be the name of this episode.
Farty guy.
So, anyways, let's end it there now that we've drifted far afield. Thank you so much for listening. We do really appreciate you being back here each and every week. Again, we encourage you to check me out on Dice and Dreary. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. I think you will enjoy it, and do check us out on the Discord page, because we are going to be hopefully very soon playing a little bit of Star Wars and having a lot of fun with that. So check us out there. The links to that will be in the show notes. The link to Patreon is patreon.com/TechnoFunkBoys, pretty much where you can find us anywhere. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. I think we technically have like a what's it called? Instagram account. I don't know that I ever post there.
You should post muscular pictures of me there.
Okay, I'll do that. Y'all have a great weekend. We will see you next time. Next time, we are diving into Baldur's Gate, one of the truly, truly classic Dungeons & Dragons game. Definitely way up there on some of the best PC games ever made. So, looking forward to that. We will talk to you then.
See y'all later.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening. Keep gaming. And once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time, then you can game later.